Dr. Zixlera peered intently at the holographic display, her three eyes blinking in rapid succession. The swirling mass of data before her represented years of research, countless expeditions, and the combined efforts of some of the brightest minds in the Galactic Confederation. Yet, despite all their advancements, what they had stumbled upon defied explanation. "Captain Krellner, you need to see this," she called out, her voice a mix of excitement and disbelief. The captain, a towering figure with iridescent scales and 6 limbs, glided across the bridge of the research vessel Cosmic Seeker. "What have you found, Doctor?" he asked, his deep voice resonating through the room. Zixlera manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular sector of space. "We've detected a planet in the Orion arm of the Milky Way. Its conditions are, well, they're unlike anything we've ever encountered." The captain leaned in, his compound eyes reflecting the light of the hologram. "Elaborate." "The planet has an atmosphere thick with oxygen and nitrogen, but also laced with various toxins. Its gravity is crushingly high, nearly twice that of our homeworld. The temperature variations are extreme, ranging from scorching heat to freezing cold. There are vast bodies of liquid water, which in itself isn't unusual, but the water is often in violent motion, creating massive waves and storms." Krellner's antennae twitched with interest. "Fascinating, but hardly unique. We've encountered hostile worlds before." Zixlera shook her head, her tendrils swaying with emotion. "That's just the beginning, Captain. The planet experiences frequent tectonic activity, volcanic eruptions, and extreme weather patterns. There are regions of intense radiation, likely due to the planet's strong magnetic field and proximity to its star. And the most baffling part," she paused for effect, "we're detecting clear signs of intelligent life." The bridge fell silent. Even the usual hum of the ship's systems seemed muted in the wake of this revelation. "Impossible," Krellner whispered. "No sapient species could evolve in such conditions." "And yet the evidence is undeniable," Zixlera insisted. "We're picking up artificial structures, electromagnetic emissions consistent with technology, and even signs of rudimentary space exploration." The captain's scales shifted color, a sign of deep thought among his species. Could it be a colony of some spacefaring race? Perhaps they found a way to survive there despite the conditions. Zixlera manipulated the hologram again, bringing up a series of charts and graphs. "That's what I thought at first, but look at this genetic data we've managed to collect from the planet's biosphere. The dominant sapient species is completely unique. They've evolved there, Captain. They're native to this death trap." Krellner's usually stoic demeanor cracked. "By the cosmic core," he breathed. "Do you understand what this means, Doctor?" She nodded solemnly. "It means we've discovered a species that has not only survived, but thrived in conditions that would kill most life forms in the known galaxy. A species forged by the most extreme environment we've ever encountered. We need to report this to the Galactic Council immediately," Krellner declared. "This discovery could reshape our understanding of life itself." As the captain moved to initiate the communication, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. The holographic display flickered and distorted. "What's happening?" Krellner demanded. The ship's AI responded, its voice calm despite the chaos. "We are experiencing a massive surge of electromagnetic energy from the planet's surface. It appears to be some form of scanning technology." Zixlera's eyes widened. "They detected us, but we're using our most advanced cloaking technology. Whatever they're using, it's cutting through our defenses like they're not even there," the AI reported. The ship shuddered, and for a moment, every system went dark. When the lights and displays came back online, a new image dominated the holographic projection. It showed a bipedal creature, its body a complex interplay of soft tissue and hard bone, covered in a thin layer of hair. 2 eyes stared out from its face, radiating an intelligence that sent shivers down Zixlera's spine. A series of sounds emanated from the creature's mouth, incomprehensible yet clearly a form of communication. The ship's AI worked furiously to decipher it. Translation complete, the AI announced. The message reads, "Unidentified vessel, you have entered Earth's sovereign space. Identify yourselves and state your intentions, or you will be treated as hostile." Krelnor and Zixlara exchanged looks of shock. Not only had this species detected them, but they had also managed to penetrate their communication systems and deliver a clear threat. "Earth," Zixlara whispered. "They call their Deathworld Earth." Krelnor straightened himself, his captain's training kicking in despite his astonishment. "Open a channel," he ordered. "It seems our first contact situation has arrived far sooner than we anticipated." As Zixlara prepared the communication systems, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to encounter something beyond their wildest imaginations. A species born of fire and storm, of radiation and gravity, of poison and catastrophe. A species that called the most hostile world they had ever encountered home. The humans of Earth were about to change everything. First contact. Captain Krelnor took a deep breath, his exoskeleton expanding slightly with emotion. "This is Captain Krelnor of the Galactic Confederation research vessel Cosmic Seeker. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and mutual understanding." There was a moment of tense silence before the response came. The human's face on the holographic display shifted, its features rearranging in a way that Dr. Zixlara found utterly fascinating. "This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Defense Force," the human replied, its voice now translated in real time by the ship's eye. "Your presence here is unexpected. We've been monitoring the stars for signs of extraterrestrial life for centuries, but you're the first to actually show up." Krelnor's antennae twitched in surprise. "You've been aware of the possibility of our existence." "Of course," Admiral Chen responded, a hint of amusement in her voice. "We may be isolated, but we're not naive. The universe is too vast for us to be alone." Zixlara couldn't contain her scientific curiosity any longer. "Admiral, if I may, how is it possible for your species to survive on such a hostile world? The conditions on your planet are extreme beyond anything we've encountered." The Admiral's face contorted again, and the AI helpfully supplied that this expression was called a smile, apparently a sign of positive emotion. "Hostile. Extreme." Chen chuckled. "I suppose from your perspective, Earth might seem that way. But to us, it's just home. We've adapted to our environment over millions of years of evolution." Krelnor and Zixlara exchanged glances. The casual way the human dismissed their concerns about Earth's conditions was almost as shocking as the conditions themselves. "Admiral," Krelnor began cautiously, "would it be possible for us to send a delegation to your planet? We would very much like to learn more about your species and your world." There was a pause as Chen seemed to consider this. "We're open to the idea, but we'll need to take precautions. Our atmosphere and gravity might be dangerous for you. Plus, we'll need to ensure you're not carrying any pathogens that could be harmful to our ecosystem." Zixlara's tendrils curled in excitement. "We have advanced environmental suits that should protect us from your atmosphere and gravity. As for pathogens, we can undergo a thorough decontamination process." "Very well." Chen nodded. "We'll transmit coordinates for a secure landing zone. Please limit your delegation to no more than 5 individuals." As the transmission ended, the bridge of the Cosmic Seeker erupted into a flurry of activity. Crew members rushed to prepare for the historic landing, while Krelnor assembled his team. "Dr. Zixlara, you'll be coming with me," he announced. "Your expertise in xenobiology will be crucial. We'll also bring our chief engineer, our cultural anthropologist, and our medical officer." Hours later, the landing shuttle descended through Earth's turbulent atmosphere. Despite the advanced inertial dampeners, the team felt every shake and shudder. Zixlara's 3 hearts raced with a mixture of fear and anticipation. As they broke through the cloud cover, the landscape below took their breath away. Vast oceans of liquid water stretched as far as they could see, broken by landmasses of varying sizes. Mountains thrust up from the ground, their peaks covered in white crystalline structures that the ship's computer identified as snow. The shuttle touched down in a large open area surrounded by strange vertical structures, buildings the computer supplied. A group of humans waited nearby, dressed in uniforms and accompanied by various vehicles and equipment. The shuttle's door opened, and Earth's atmosphere rushed in, filtered through their environmental suits. Even so, the team staggered under the planet's intense gravity. Admiral Chen stepped forward as Krellinor led his team out of the shuttle. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her voice now unfiltered by technology. Krellinor attempted to replicate the human smile with his mandibles. "Thank you, Admiral. We are honored to be here." As they began to exchange formal greetings, a deafening roar filled the air. The alien delegation instinctively crouched in fear, but the humans merely glanced up casually. "Don't worry," Chen reassured them. "It's just a passenger aircraft taking off from a nearby airport. You'll get used to it." Zixlara marveled at the humans' nonchalance. A massive metal construct was hurtling itself into the sky, fighting against the planet's cruel gravity, and the humans treated it as an everyday occurrence. "Perhaps," Chen suggested, "we should move our discussions indoors. A storm is approaching, and I imagine you'd prefer not to experience Earth's weather just yet." As if on cue, a flash of lightning split the sky, followed by a rumble of thunder that Zixlara felt in her very bones. The humans, once again, seemed unfazed. As they moved towards one of the buildings, Zixlara couldn't help but stare at the humans in wonder. These creatures, these humans, had not only survived in this hellish environment, but had thrived, built civilizations, and reached for the stars. She realized then that they had grossly underestimated this species. The humans weren't just the inhabitants of a Deathworld. They were the product of it, shaped by its fires, tempered by its storms, strengthened by its gravity. And now they were stepping onto the galactic stage. The universe, Zixlara thought, would never be the same. Cultural exchange. In the weeks following first contact, both humans and the Galactic Confederation delegates found themselves in a whirlwind of cultural exchange and mutual discovery. The initial meeting had expanded into a series of diplomatic talks, scientific conferences, and cultural exhibitions. Dr. Zixlara sat in a reinforced chair in the human conference room, her environmental suit allowing her to withstand Earth's crushing gravity. She was reviewing her notes from the latest xenobiology seminar when Captain Krellinor entered, his normally iridescent scales a dull gray, a sign of fatigue in his species. "Doctor," he greeted, settling into his own specially designed chair. "How are you finding your research?" Zixlara's tendrils quivered with excitement. "It's absolutely fascinating, Captain. The more I learn about human biology, the more astounded I become. Did you know that their skeletal structure is internal? And it's made of a calcium-based material that's constantly regenerating." Krellinor nodded. "Yes, I recall the briefing. Quite different from our exoskeletons." "That's just the beginning," Zixlara continued, her three eyes widening. "Their cardiovascular system is incredibly robust. It has to be, to function under this gravity. And their ability to thermoregulate is remarkable. They can survive in temperatures that would freeze or boil most species in the Confederation." The captain's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "It's not just their biology that's impressive. Their technology, while not as advanced as ours in some areas, is remarkably sturdy. They build to last in a way we've never had to consider." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Emily Chen, the human scientist who had been assigned as their primary liaison. She was carrying a tray of what appeared to be sustenance cubes. "I thought you might be hungry," she said with a smile. "I had our nutrition team prepare these based on your dietary requirements." Krellinor and Zixlara accepted the offerings gratefully. As they ate, Emily settled into a chair across from them, her movements easy and natural in Earth's gravity. "So," she began, "how are you finding your stay on Earth so far?" Zixlara swallowed her food cube before responding. "It's been incredibly enlightening, Dr. Chen. Your world is intense, but beautiful in its own way. I'm particularly intrigued by your oceans. The idea of such vast bodies of liquid water is almost incomprehensible to many species in the Confederation. Emily nodded. I can imagine. We've always taken our oceans for granted, but I suppose they are quite unique. Speaking of which, we've prepared an oceanic expedition for next week. Would you be interested in observing some of our marine life? Krellner's scales flickered with concern. Is that safe? The pressure at the depths of your oceans. Don't worry, Emily assured him. We've developed a submersible vessel that can withstand the pressure. It's reinforced similarly to your environmental suits. As they discussed the details of the expedition, a low rumble shook the building. Krellner and Zixlara tensed, but Emily remained calm. Just a minor earthquake, she explained. Nothing to worry about. Zixlara marveled at the humans' nonchalance. A minor earthquake. On our worlds, any tectonic activity of that magnitude would be cause for immediate evacuation. Emily looked surprised. Really? This happens all the time here. Our buildings are designed to withstand much stronger quakes. This casual dismissal of what the aliens considered a major threat was becoming a pattern, one that both fascinated and unnerved them. As the days passed, more cultural differences came to light. The humans' concept of recreation often involved activities that seemed incredibly dangerous to the alien visitors. They willingly hurled themselves down snowy mountains on narrow boards, jumped out of aircraft for fun, and swam in waters teeming with creatures they admitted were potentially lethal. Even their entertainment was intense. Zixlara had attended a human movie and found herself overwhelmed by the sensory input. The loud sounds, rapid visual changes, and emotional intensity left her feeling drained, while the humans around her seemed energized and excited. One evening, as they watched the sun set from the roof of the conference center, Krellner turned to Emily. Dr. Chen, I must ask, how do you humans cope with the constant dangers of your world? The earthquakes, the storms, the predators. It seems like every aspect of your existence is a struggle against your environment. Emily considered the question for a moment. I suppose, from your perspective, it might seem that way. But for us, it's just life. The challenges of our world have shaped us, pushed us to adapt and innovate. We don't see it as a struggle, but as an opportunity to grow stronger, to push our limits. Zixlara's tendrils curled thoughtfully. It's reflected in your culture, isn't it? Your stories, your philosophy, they all seem to revolve around overcoming adversity. Exactly, Emily nodded. In a way, the harshness of our world has been our greatest teacher. It's taught us resilience, cooperation, and the value of always striving to improve. As the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Krellner and Zixlara exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that the humans' Deathworld hadn't just shaped their biology, but their entire worldview. The humans didn't just survive on Earth. They embraced its challenges, celebrated them even. It was a perspective that was both alien and oddly inspiring to the Galactic Confederation members. As night fell and the first stars became visible, Zixlara couldn't help but wonder, what would it mean for the galaxy now that these incredible, resilient beings were ready to venture beyond their harsh cradle? The cultural exchange had only just begun, and already it was clear that the impact would be profound and far-reaching. Little did they know, events were already in motion that would put humanity's unique capabilities to the ultimate test. Crisis. The klaxons blared throughout the Galactic Confederation outpost orbiting Earth, their urgent wail a stark contrast to the peaceful backdrop of the blue planet below. Captain Krellner burst onto the command deck, his scales a flickering tapestry of alarm colors. Report, he barked, his usually calm demeanor shattered by the emergency. A young officer, her tentacles trembling, responded. Sir, we've detected a massive gravitational anomaly at the edge of the solar system. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. Dr. Zixlara, who had followed Krellner onto the deck, immediately pulled up the sensor data on the main view screen. Her three eyes widened in horror as she processed the information. "By the cosmic core," she whispered. "It's a hypermass cascade." Krellner's antennae drooped in dismay. He knew what that meant. A hypermass cascade was a theoretical phenomenon, a catastrophic chain reaction that could tear apart the very fabric of space-time. If unchecked, it could consume entire galaxies. "How long do we have?" he asked, dreading the answer. Zixlara's tendrils writhed as she calculated. At its current rate of expansion, less than a standard galactic month before it reaches Earth, perhaps a year before it engulfs the entire galaxy. The command deck fell silent, the weight of impending doom settling over them like a shroud. "We need to evacuate," one of the officers said, panic edging into her voice. "We need to warn the Confederation, get as many people out of the galaxy as we can." Krellner raised a hand to quiet her. "No," he said firmly. "We can't abandon an entire galaxy. There has to be a way to stop this." Just then, the communication console lit up. It was a transmission from Earth. Dr. Emily Chen's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Captain Krellner, we've detected a massive disturbance in the outer solar system. Our scientists are baffled. Do you have any information?" Krellner hesitated for a moment before responding. "Dr. Chen, we're dealing with a phenomenon known as a hypermass cascade. It's a threat unlike anything we've ever faced." He proceeded to explain the situation, watching as Emily's face grew more serious with each passing moment. When he finished, he expected to see fear, perhaps even panic. Instead, he saw something that surprised him: determination. "I see," Emily said, her voice steady. "What do you need from us?" Krellner blinked in surprise. "Dr. Chen, I don't think you understand. This phenomenon could destroy your entire planet, your whole galaxy. We've never found a way to stop it." Emily's eyes flashed with a fierce intensity. "With all due respect, Captain, that doesn't mean it can't be done. We humans have a long history of doing the impossible. Now I'll ask again. What do you need from us?" For a moment, Krellner was speechless. Then, slowly, he began to realize something. Throughout their stay on Earth, he and his team had witnessed the humans' incredible ability to adapt, to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. Perhaps they were approaching this all wrong. "Dr. Zixlara," he said, turning to the scientist, "what if we looked at this from a different angle? Not how we can stop the cascade, but how we can survive it." Zixlara's tendrils curled in thought. "Well, theoretically, if we could generate a stable pocket of space-time, we might be able to ride out the cascade. But the energy requirements would be astronomical. We'd need a power source unlike anything in known space." Emily's voice cut in. "What about a star?" All eyes on the command deck turned to the view screen. "Explain," Krellner said, his interest piqued. "We've been developing technology to harness the power of our sun," Emily said. "It's still experimental, but given the circumstances, I think we can accelerate the project." Zixlara's eyes widened. "Harnessing a star. That's incredibly dangerous. The slightest miscalculation could cause a solar flare that would sterilize your entire planet." Emily nodded gravely. "We're aware of the risks, but given the alternative, I think we're willing to take that chance." Krellner felt a mix of awe and fear. The humans were willing to risk the destruction of their world on the slim chance of saving the galaxy. It was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Perhaps, he realized, it was both. "Very well," he said. "We'll coordinate our efforts. Dr. Zixlara, work with the human scientists on the calculations for the space-time pocket. I'll inform the Confederation and request any additional resources they can spare." As the command deck erupted into a flurry of activity, Krellner couldn't help but marvel at the situation. Here they were, facing the end of everything they knew, and their best hope lay with a species from a world they had once dismissed as too hostile for intelligent life. The irony wasn't lost on him. The very conditions that had made Earth seem uninhabitable had forged a species uniquely suited to face this crisis. The humans' resilience, their adaptability, their sheer determination in the face of overwhelming odds. These were the qualities that might just save them all. As he watched Emily coordinate with her team on Earth, Krellnor felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Hope. It was a fragile thing, as delicate as a soap bubble, and just as iridescent. But it was there, growing stronger with each passing moment. The battle for survival was just beginning, and the odds were stacked against them. But with the humans of Earth as their allies, Krellnor began to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, they stood a chance. The galaxy held its breath as humanity prepared to unleash the power of a star in a desperate bid for survival. Resolution. The sun, usually a distant golden orb in Earth's sky, now dominated the view from the observation deck of the Galactic Confederation outpost. Its surface roiled with unprecedented activity, solar flares lashing out into space like fiery tentacles. Captain Krellnor stood transfixed, his exoskeleton glittering with a mix of fear and awe. "By the cosmic core," he whispered, "I can't believe they're actually doing it." Dr. Zixlara floated next to him, her three eyes fixed on a holographic display of data streaming in from the solar observation satellites. "The humans have succeeded in establishing a stable connection with the sun's core," she reported, her voice tinged with disbelief. "They're channeling its energy through a network of satellites. It's beyond anything I've ever seen." On the planet below, humanity had mobilized on a scale unprecedented in their history. Every nation, every resource, every mind was bent towards a single goal: survival. The experimental solar harvesters, once mere theoretical constructs, now orbited their star, drawing upon its awesome power. Dr. Emily Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain, Dr. Zixlara, we're ready to initiate the space-time bubble. Are your calculations complete?" Zixlara's tendrils writhed as she double-checked her figures. "Yes, Dr. Chen. We've mapped out the optimal configuration for the bubble. But I must warn you again, the energy required is—" "We know the risks," Emily interrupted, her voice firm. "We're proceeding." Krellnor and Zixlara exchanged glances. The sheer audacity of what the humans were attempting was mind-boggling. They were quite literally trying to create a pocket of stable space-time, using the power of their own star, in the face of a cosmic phenomenon that threatened to unravel reality itself. Alarms blared as the energy readings spiked. The sun seemed to pulse, its corona expanding in a brilliant flash that momentarily overwhelmed the outpost's filters. For a terrifying moment, Krellnor thought they had miscalculated, that the humans had inadvertently triggered a solar catastrophe. But then, something incredible happened. A shimmering bubble of distorted space began to form, encompassing the entire solar system. It was barely visible at first, a mere ripple in the starfield, but it quickly grew more distinct. The hypermass cascade, now visible as a roiling storm of fractured space-time at the edge of the system, seemed to recoil from this new barrier. "It's working," Zixlara breathed, her scientific detachment momentarily forgotten in the face of this miracle. "They've actually done it." The bubble continued to expand, pushing back against the encroaching cascade. For several tense hours, it was a stalemate, the barrier holding firm against the cosmic onslaught. And then, slowly but surely, the cascade began to recede. Cheers erupted both on the outpost and on the communications channels from Earth. Humans and aliens alike celebrated as the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced was, against all odds, being driven back. Days passed, and the crisis point finally ended. The hypermass cascade dissipated, its energy dispersed harmlessly into the void of space. The bubble, its job done, slowly faded away, leaving the solar system intact. In the aftermath, as the galaxy breathed a collective sigh of relief, Krellnor found himself in a meeting with the highest echelons of both human and Galactic Confederation leadership. "We owe you a debt we can never repay," The Galactic President said, addressing the human representatives. You've saved not just yourselves, but countless species across the galaxy. The human leader, a woman with graying hair and eyes that spoke of the weight of recent events, smiled tiredly. We did what we had to do, what anyone would have done in our position. Krellner couldn't help but interject. With all due respect, Madam President, I don't think that's true. What your species accomplished, it's unprecedented. You took risks that most would consider unthinkable. Dr. Chen, who was also present, nodded. Perhaps, but that's who we are. Our world has never allowed us the luxury of inaction. In the face of danger, we adapt, we overcome, or we perish. It's as simple as that. The Galactic President's expression turned thoughtful. Indeed, it seems we have much to learn from you. Your unique perspective, born from your challenging world, could be invaluable to the Confederation. What followed was a historic moment, an invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Confederation, not as a junior member, but as equals. The humans, true to form, accepted the challenge with enthusiasm. As the meeting concluded, Krellner found himself looking out at the Earth once more. He saw it now not as a death world, but as a crucible, a place where life was forged in fire and pressure, emerging stronger for the ordeal. Dr. Zixlera joined him, her tendrils curling in contentment. It's remarkable, isn't it? She mused. We came here thinking we would be the teachers, showing them the wonders of the galaxy. Instead, they've taught us so much. Krellner nodded, his antennae twitching in agreement. They've shown us that there's no such thing as an insurmountable obstacle. That with determination, ingenuity, and a willingness to take risks, anything is possible. As they watched, a fleet of human ships launched from Earth, their sleek designs a fusion of human innovation and Confederation technology. They were the first of many, carrying human explorers, scientists, and diplomats out into the galaxy they had just saved. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The children of Earth, born of the ultimate death world, were stepping out into the cosmos, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. And the universe, vast and full of wonders, trembled with anticipation.